Welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to list the cookies. This could be very similar to get cookie, where in this case, we're not going to be looking for any specific name. And instead of just getting a specific one, we want to list out all the available cookies. So the format is going to be roughly the same. So let's copy what we did in the last lesson and get cookies and go down to list cookies. Then we can paste that in and move it over. So now we've got ability to list cookies. So the format is the same thing, where we get the document cookie object, we split it by the colon. And remember, we're listing all of that out. So when we do list cookies, we see that we get all of the cookies being listed out. So these are all the ones that are currently set. This is all of the cookies that we've got, that we found. So notice it's within a string format. And then as we update it, so we can get rid of that console message. And as we loop through each one, we do the same thing where we trim, we split, and we don't have a condition here where we're looking for a specific cookie. We want to build the cookie content out. So let's do that. And using our JavaScript, we're going to create a div using and equal that to document, create element. So JavaScript way to create elements. So we're going to create a bunch of divs and place that inside of that output so it's nice and neatly formatted. Let's set some attributes to it. So we can add a class name, or we can do set attribute. We don't have any classes quite yet, so we can go ahead and we can add in a class for that. And let's set up a class of cookie. And then adding an event listener as well. So div add event listener. So whenever one of those gets clicked, then we can show some more information that's contained within the cookie. So outputting function. And this is just additional. So whenever any of those get clicked, we can output the cookie value, so the temp cookie, into the console. So that will output that information into the console. And then lastly, let's output the inner text or text content of the cookie, of the div that we're creating. So let's create some inner text here. And one of the things we need to do is list out the cookie, so the temp cookie name. So that's the name of it. And then we also want to set a value for it. So just as we did here where we did the decode, we can add that line of code in. So that's going to output the contents and add it into the div that we just created. And we can remove rest of that. We don't need that information. And then lastly, what we want to do is take our output element and append a child to it. And the child that we want to append is this div object that we just created. So let's see what that looks like and do all cookies. And we see we get a listing of all of the cookies. So we don't need the no cookies found, of course. So we can clear that and all cookies, all cookies, all cookies. And actually, instead of not listing anything, let's just leave it blank. So clear that out. So now whenever we do all cookies, and if we set a new cookie with a new name, a new value, so set cookie, and now when we list it, we see all of those cookies. And of course, when we click it, you see that we're listing them out. So we could also set it to automatically delete the cookie if we wanted to. So we could erase the cookie by the cookie name because we are passing that in. So if we wanted a quick and easy way to erase the cookie, we could pass that information into the function whenever it gets clicked. So as we click the element, so all the cookies that we created where we're listing the cookies, we've got the value of temp cookie, and we can remove out the cookie with the temp cookie information. So now we've got a quick and easy way, and I've got to launch that live host again. So notice sometimes with brackets, it will open up and it opens up under another port. But either way, you still see that you've got all of the cookies there, and we can set a new cookie, and then we list out all of the cookies. And now whenever I click on these, that's going to actually delete and remove the cookie. So if I do all cookies, it's removed out those new ones that we're outputting. So lastly, let's add in some styling to this because those are fairly compressed there. And we did add in a class when we created the cookies. And you don't have to add in the ability to remove it when you click it. That's another option that you could have. So creating a class for the cookie, let's add some padding around that. And we can set the font size. Also, maybe we want to set the font family to distinguish it. Let's see what that looks like. So we do all cookies. We've got our cookies information. There's no cookies there, so we're just getting undefined. So we can also see that if there is no value for that index, then we can just simply put a value of blank for it. So instead of doing get cookie, and if there's no value, if we delete it, and if we do get cookie, we see we're getting all of those values. And now when we do all cookies, we get undefined. So we might want to take care of that. And instead of having a listing of all of the cookies that we're trying to output here, we might want to just simply skip it if there's no value associated with it. So let's add that in as well. That's a quick fix where we check to see if temp cookie 1 has a value length. So if temp cookie 1 length is greater than 0, then we know that we can add it into the array. Otherwise, we're just going to skip that part. So now whenever I refresh and I hit all cookies, if there's nothing there, we don't see anything being output there. If I set a cookie and if I delete it and all cookies, it's just going to be blank. So set a cookie and list it out. You can see that the output is being output there. Also, I'm going to update this to be for output so that all the content is looks the same. So all the messaging looks the same way. So go ahead and add this final update into your project. And then coming up next, we'll do a quick code review. So that's still to come.